Before the sun rolls up its sleeves to shine, before the rooster dares to crow, before the world wakes up and throws its weight upon your shoulders, child, you must begin at the source. I'm talking about that sacred moment. Before the phone starts ringing, before the emails pile up, before the traffic lights and the tension, before the news feeds and notifications drown you in the noise of the world, that moment belongs to God. Give it to Him. You see, people will tell you, start with a plan, start with a vision, start with your goals, and I smile politely, because none of those are wrong, but they are all second, all of them. The plan is fine, but who gave you the mind to conceive it? The vision is bright, but who gifted you the eyes to see it? The goals are noble, but who steadies your feet as you chase them? No, child, you don't begin with hustle, you begin with holiness. You don't start with effort, you start with awe. When you start with God, you are not starting late. You are not delaying the day, you are aligning it. You're placing your soul in the hands of the one who spun the stars and still stoops low enough to whisper peace into your bones. That kind of beginning, my love, that is not weakness, it is wisdom. The world will rush you. It will tempt you to skip the stillness, to leap over the quiet, to race past your spirit so you can get ahead. Ahead of what? Ahead of whom? You can be first in the world's race and still be last in peace. You can achieve much and lose yourself on the way there. That's why I say, before anything else, begin with Him. Now some folk might ask, how do I start with God? And I say, start with what you already have. You don't need grand words or long verses. You need a willing heart. You don't need a perfect prayer. You just need to show up. You can be in your kitchen with flour on your hands and start with God. You can be on the bus, holding back tears behind sunglasses, and start with God. You can be lying in bed, not even sure you have the strength to rise, and start with God. That is the miracle. He meets you wherever you are, but He never leaves you where He found you. And when you do that, something shifts. Your feet may still be on the ground, but your spirit is lifted higher. When you start with God, you're not reacting to the day. You're commanding it, not by might, but by spirit. You see clearer. You move gentler, you speak kinder, not because the world changed, but because you changed before you stepped into it. And let me say this, especially to the ones who've been wounded, who've been weary. Starting with God does not mean every battle disappears, but it does mean you never fight alone. It means that even when the tears fall, there is a hand steadying you, a presence carrying you, a voice that says, peace, be still. When the storm tries to rage inside your chest, this is not superstition. This is not performance. This is not for show. This is relationship. This is life. This is the secret that keeps the soul from unraveling in a world that's always spinning too fast. I've seen people rise with power and fall with pride because they didn't know how to begin. They mastered every trade but failed to master surrender. Don't let that be you. Start low. Bow your head. Still your heart, speak His name. Ask for His breath to fill your lungs, His light to guard your path, His wisdom to guide your choices. And when you do, when you begin in that sacred stillness, you will find a strange and holy power rising in you. Not loud, not boastful, just steady, just sure. Start with God, baby. Start with God. Stillness is not empty. It is the chamber of divine instruction. You hear me. The world has trained us to believe that if we're not moving, we're not progressing. That silence is laziness. That quiet means you've lost your way. But let me tell you something, child. There are answers you will never find in the noise. There is clarity that only comes when the world is shut out and heaven is let in. Don't let the rhythm of this rushing world convince you that you have to keep dancing to its beat. Sometimes you have to step off the floor, sit down, breathe deep, and listen, because it is in the stillness that God speaks. Not always in thunder, not always in fire, but in the hush between your thoughts, in the pause between your breaths. That's where He drops His instructions like seeds into soil, and only the soul that waits can receive them. You see, when you start your day without silence, you walk into the world without strategy, and you wonder why you're tired by noon, why you're anxious and can't focus, why nothing you do seems to satisfy. It's not that the path is wrong. It's that you didn't listen long enough to know where the path even begins. That's why I say, child, before you do, you must be. Be still. Be present. Be open. Some of you are asking God for answers, but you won't sit long enough to hear them. You want clarity. But you're afraid of the quiet because the quiet shows you who you really are. It strips away the applause, the performance, the pretending. It confronts you with your reflection. But that is where healing begins. That's where God pulls up a chair beside your rawness and says, "Now that you've stopped running, let's talk." In the stillness, He speaks softly. But don't mistake soft for small. His whispers carry the weight of the universe. They don't need to shout because they come with authority. And child, when God gives you a word in stillness, that word will hold you when the world tries to break you. So many of us are chasing purpose like it's hiding under a rock. But purpose isn't hiding. It's waiting. It's waiting for you to slow down long enough to listen. I've seen people leap at every opportunity that sparkled, only to land in places that drained their souls. They didn't wait for the assignment. They moved with ambition, not alignment. That's why stillness is holy. It keeps you from moving ahead of God. And don't think stillness means inactivity. Oh no, child. Stillness is the most powerful preparation. It's where God sharpens you in secret so you don't shatter in public. It's where He builds your character before He reveals your calling. Think about it. Trees grow in silence. Flowers bloom without noise. The most miraculous things in creation develop in quiet obedience. Now I know the world doesn't applaud stillness. It doesn't throw parades for prayer. It won't trend your moments of meditation. But don't you let that fool you. What the world can't see, heaven celebrates. The deepest growth happens underground. You've got to get comfortable with silence. Baby, you've got to learn to turn down the volume on everything else so you can turn up the frequency of your Father. I'm telling you, God has things to say to you, instructions to give you, ideas to birth through you, but He won't compete with your chaos. He waits, patiently, lovingly, until you come sit with Him. You may not hear a voice. That's okay. Sometimes His silence is still an answer. Sometimes His presence is all the instruction you need. And there's a knowing that grows in you when you give Him space. Not just your Sunday mornings, but your Monday minutes, your Thursday tears, your Thursday thoughts. Let Him in, and then be still long enough to let Him work. There is no shortcut to divine wisdom. There is no microwave for miracles. You've got to sit. You've got to listen. And you've got to trust that God speaks not just to prophets and pastors, but to you. Yes, you. If you would only make the room. Because, child, the truth is, the next chapter of your life may not come from your effort, but from your ear. And the ear is only open in stillness. So before you speak, listen. Before you leap, listen. Before you plan, listen. Listen till heaven speaks. You cannot build a palace of peace on a foundation of fear. Think about that for a moment. How often do we try to construct our lives, our dreams, our relationships, our very souls, on shaky ground, on foundations cracked by doubt, anxiety, and despair? But listen. The strength of what you build tomorrow depends on the soil where your roots dig deep today. When you start with God, you begin with a foundation so firm it can hold the weight of storms, setbacks, and sorrow. Many folks chase after success like it's a prize to be won, a crown to be placed upon their heads. But what's success if the ground beneath you is crumbling? What's achievement if your spirit is fragile? A foundation shapes the climb, child. It's the silent power beneath every step you take. If that base is weak, the highest towers will fall. Starting with God means you start with a foundation that does not wobble when the winds howl. It means you build your life on love that cannot be shaken, on grace that never runs dry, on truth that stands steady like a rock in a restless sea. When God is your foundation, you can face rejection and still know your worth. You can face failure and still find your courage. You can face the darkness and still hold on to light. It's easy to get caught up in what the world says is strong. Money, status, power, these things look solid, but they shift like sand. One day you're on top, the next you're sliding. But God's foundation is eternal. It's a bedrock of peace that no circumstance can erode. And here's the thing, building on that foundation requires patience. It requires humility. It requires the courage to let go of what you think you need and hold fast to what you know is true. Sometimes the world will tell you to rush. Rush to get the job. Rush to make the connections. Rush to fix your brokenness with anything but God. But rushing without God is building castles in the air. Pretty, yes, but unstable. I want you to think about the people in your life who stand strong in the face of trials. Those who don't crumble when the roof leaks or the winds shake the windows. What do they have that others don't? It's a foundation. It's a spiritual bedrock that holds them firm. When you start with God, you also start with faith. The faith that what you build is not just for today, but for generations to come. Faith that your story is bigger than your struggles, that your journey has a purpose that transcends pain. Faith that says, even I fall, I will rise because I am rooted in the eternal. But child, don't mistake this foundation for something you can see or touch easily. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it feels invisible. Sometimes it feels slow. But it is there, quietly shaping your character, molding your heart, and preparing you for what lies ahead. It is the place where God's promises are planted in your soul, watered by His love, and nurtured by His grace. And when storms come, as they will, you won't be shaken. Because the foundation that holds you is not the applause of people or the temporary success of this world. It is the unchanging love of God. It is the assurance that no matter what, you are held, you are known, you are beloved. Starting with God also means you start with a vision that is bigger than your fears. When fear tries to whisper lies, your foundation speaks louder. It says, I am more than my mistakes. I am stronger than my doubts. I am anchored in a love that never fails. Fear can shake your hands, but it cannot shake your foundation when that foundation is God. So many times, I have watched people try to build their lives on foundations of fear, and they crumble. Fear makes you second guess yourself, stops you from stepping out, silences your voice, and steals your joy. But when you start with God, fear has no place to live. It is chased away by faith, hope, and love. Oh, love is the strongest foundation of all. God's love is what holds the whole universe together. It is the anchor of the soul. It is what steadies your heart when the world feels like it's spinning out of control. You might be wondering, how do I build on this foundation? How do I start? The answer is simple but profound. Start by surrendering. Let go of control. Let go of the need to fix everything on your own. Lay down your fears, your doubts, your plans, and build instead on trust. Trust that God is with you. Trust that He is enough. Trust that He will guide your steps. Remember, child, building a life is not about rushing to the top. It's about placing one stone at a time, carefully and prayerfully. Each act of faith is a brick. Each moment of surrender is mortar. Each word of kindness, each step of courage, each breath of hope. These are the building blocks of a life anchored in God. So when you find yourself standing at the edge of a new beginning, remember the strength of your climb depends on the foundation you choose. Choose God. Choose peace. Choose a foundation that cannot be moved. Because when your foundation is God, no storm, no setback, no shadow can ever shake you. Build on that. When you start with God, you don't walk alone. There is a truth deep in the marrow of our bones that says life is a journey meant for companionship, meant for a presence that never leaves us, never abandons us in the wilderness. Too many times, we set out on our path thinking we have to carry the weight ourselves, that our struggles are ours alone to bear. But starting with God means you enter a partnership, a sacred, unbreakable alliance with the one who promised to be with you always. Imagine walking through the darkest valley, feeling the chill of fear creeping over your skin, your steps faltering under the weight of doubt. Now imagine that in the midst of that darkness, there is a hand holding yours. Not a shaky, unsure hand, but a steady, unwavering grip that pulls you through the shadows. That is what starting with God means. It means when the world turns its back, He turns toward you. When the storms roar, He is your shelter. When you stumble, He is your strength. It's easy to feel alone, especially when the road gets rough. You may be surrounded by people, yet feel utterly isolated. Like you're the only one carrying a heavy burden no one else can see. But hear this, you are never truly alone. The Creator of the universe walks beside you, whispers peace into your soul, and carries your fears as if they were His own. Starting with God means starting with presence. His presence is not just a comforting idea. It is a powerful force that changes everything. When you feel weak, His strength becomes your anchor. When you feel lost, His guidance lights the way. When you feel unworthy, His love reminds you who you really are. Beloved, chosen, cherished beyond measure. Sometimes people mistake starting with God as something only for the perfect, the strong, the holy. But no, it is for the broken, the weary, the questioning. It is for the ones who have fallen and do not know how to rise. When you start with God, He He meets you in your mess. He meets you where you are, not where you think you should be. You might wonder how this looks in the daily grind, in the messy, ordinary moments. It looks like a conversation whispered in the quiet of the morning before the chaos begins. It looks like a hand lifted in prayer when you feel too tired to go on. It looks like a heart open enough to say, I don't have all the answers, but I trust you. That's starting with God. Simple, humble, real. And because you start with God, you carry a strength that is not your own. You carry a peace that surpasses understanding. You carry a hope that refuses to be extinguished. When life throws its punches, when the trials come crashing in waves, you don't face them alone. You face them with the one who calms the storm, who walks on water, who holds tomorrow in his hands. But it's not just about protection. It's about empowerment. Starting with God means you are never powerless. You are given courage for the climb, wisdom for the decisions, grace for the mistakes. You are given a voice to speak truth, a heart to love fiercely, and feet that are steady on the path He sets before you. So when you feel like giving up, remember this: you are not walking this road solo. You are not abandoned or forgotten. The God who started with you will carry you through. The God who whispered your name at the dawn of your days will be the one who sees you through the darkest nights. You are part of a divine dance, a holy story written across the tapestry of time. You are held in the hands of the one who does not tire or falter, the one who loves you without condition, the one who will never leave you or forsake you. When you start with God, you start with a companion for the journey, a friend in the struggle, a guide in the wilderness, a light in the darkness. You start not just with faith, but with the living presence of God by your side, and that changes everything. Child, when you start with God, you end the search for worth. Listen closely, because this is a truth that can set you from a lifetime of chasing shadows. The world may price you cheap. It may tell you're not enough, not talented enough, not beautiful enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. But God crowned you long before the applause or the rejection ever came knocking at your door. Too many of us grow up measuring our value by what others say about us. We let their opinions carve deep lines in our hearts, shaping how we see ourselves. We put on masks to fit in, change our colors to be accepted, hide pieces of our soul to avoid rejection. And still, no matter how hard we try, that empty feeling remains. Because true worth can never be found in the approval of people. It is a hunger that only God can fill. Starting with God means starting with the truth that you are already enough. You are whole before you accomplish anything. You are beloved before you earn a single accolade. You are precious simply because you exist. No one can add to your worth, and no one can take it away. It is not based on your performance, your success, or your failures. It is based on the unwavering love of the Creator who made you in His image. There is a deep peace that comes from knowing this, child. A peace that shields you from the constant pressure to prove yourself, to hustle harder, to be better, to do more. When you start with God, you start with acceptance. Not conditional acceptance, not acceptance if you're perfect, but acceptance as you are. Flaws, scars, doubts, and all. Think about how heavy it is to carry the weight of needing to earn love. How exhausting it is to keep running on a treadmill of comparison, jealousy, and insecurity. But when you start with God, you lay down that burden. You stop running the race of people-pleasing and start walking the path of grace. And grace, my friend, is the heart of God's worth. Grace that meets you in your mistakes. Grace that forgives your failures. Grace that says, you are loved just as you are, and that will never change. When you live in that grace, you begin to see yourself through God's eyes. A masterpiece, a work in progress, a child dearly loved. Starting with God means your identity is anchored in something solid and unshakable. It means that no matter what storms rage around you, no matter what voices try to drown out the truth, you can stand firm knowing who you are in Him. You are not defined by your past, not limited by your circumstances, not diminished by anyone's judgment. I've seen too many people shrink themselves because they believed the lies the world told them. But when you start with God, you grow into the fullness of your purpose and your power. You begin to walk in the freedom that comes from knowing your worth is not negotiable. You begin to live from a place of confidence rooted in divine love. This does not mean the journey is easy. The enemy will try to whisper lies in your ear. He will try to convince you that you're still less than, still unworthy, still not enough. But when you start with God, you have a shield against those lies. You have a voice that says louder, I am enough. I am chosen. And because you know your worth, you stop settling for less than you deserve. You stop staying in places that dim your light. You stop tolerating disrespect, neglect, and harm. Starting with God gives you the courage to walk away from anything that threatens your peace and your purpose. It also means you begin to extend that worth to others. You see their value too, not through the lens of their mistakes or shortcomings, but through the eyes of God's love. You become a bearer of grace, a vessel of kindness, a beacon of hope for those who struggle to see their own worth. So, child, if you've been looking outside for approval, for validation, for love, stop. Turn inward, turn upward. Start with God, because in Him you will find a wellspring of worth that never runs dry. You will find a love that never fails. You will find a peace that surpasses understanding. And that, my dear, is where true freedom begins. Start with God, and you will never have to start your worth again. When you start with God, you embrace a journey of continuous growth, a lifelong unfolding that never stops. It's not a one-time event or a quick fix. It's a daily commitment to becoming more of who you were created to be. The world often pushes us toward instant results, quick achievements, and rapid success. But starting with God teaches us that true transformation happens slowly, steadily, and sometimes through seasons of waiting. Imagine a tree planted by the riverbank. It doesn't shoot up overnight. It doesn't bear fruit the moment its seed hits the soil. No, it grows deep roots first, unseen but essential. It stretches its branches slowly, taking in sunlight, weathering storms, and drawing strength from the earth beneath. That is how growth happens when you start with God. Patient, persistent, rooted in something far greater than yourself. This journey of growth requires humility, because it means acknowledging that you don't have all the answers and that you can't do it all on your own. It means being open to correction, to learning, and sometimes to being broken so you can be rebuilt stronger. When you start with God, you accept that growth often feels uncomfortable. It pushes you out of your comfort zones and challenges your old ways of thinking and being. But here's the beautiful truth: God is a patient gardener. He is not in a hurry to prune you harshly or uproot you without care. He knows the perfect timing for every season of your life. And when you surrender to His process, you begin to trust that every struggle, every disappointment, every delay is shaping you for a greater purpose. Starting with God means leaning into that process, even when it's hard. It means waking up each day willing to learn something new about yourself, about others, and about the world. It means seeking wisdom not just from books or teachers, but from the quiet voice of the Spirit within you. It means being willing to let go of old habits and patterns that no longer serve your highest good. A growth also means becoming more loving, more compassionate, more forgiving, not only toward others but toward yourself. Starting with God softens your heart. It teaches you that you are a work in progress, and so are those around you. It invites you to extend grace where you once held judgment and to choose peace over conflict. And growth is not linear. There will be steps forward and steps back. There will be moments when you feel you are flourishing and moments when you feel wilted and weak. But starting with God means you don't have it all together to keep moving forward. It means His strength is made perfect in your weakness, and His grace covers your stumbles. This is why perseverance is so vital. When you start with God, you learn to keep going even when the path looks unclear. You learn to trust that every small effort, every prayer, every act of kindness, every moment of faith is building something eternal in you. You begin to see your life as a masterpiece in progress, painted stroke by the hand of divine. You also learn that growth is not just about you. It's about how you impact others and how your transformation can ripple out into the world. When you grow in God, you become a source of encouragement, a wellspring of hope, and a living example of what faith looks like in action. Your journey inspires others to start with God, to trust the process, and to believe in the power of transformation. So, as you move forward, remember this: starting with God is not a destination. It is a lifelong invitation. It is a call to keep opening your heart, to keep seeking wisdom, to keep allowing divine to shape you into the fullness of your purpose. It is a journey marked by grace, patience, and unwavering hope. And in this journey, You will discover that the more you grow, the more you realize how much more there is to learn, to become, and to give. The path of growth is endless, beautiful, and deeply fulfilling because it is walked hand in hand with the Creator who made you, who loves you, and who never stops working in you. So keep starting with God every day, in every moment, knowing that your growth is His masterpiece unfolding.